Why this matters to Arizona agents. Right now, real estate has long been one of the most respected and powerful wealth-building tools in America. In Arizona, this is not theory. It is daily reality. In markets such as Phoenix, Scottsdale, Gilbert, Mesa, and Paradise Valley, investors purchase rental properties, short-term vacation homes, luxury second residences, and long-term appreciation assets. Residential real estate provides appreciation potential, depreciation advantages, rental income, leverage opportunities, and long-term asset protection. Yet the very characteristics that make real estate attractive to legitimate investors also make it attractive to individuals attempting to conceal illicit funds. High asset values, relative stability, and the ability to hold property through entities create opportunities not only for wealth building, but also for financial concealment. The federal government has long recognized that residential real estate can be used as a vehicle for money laundering, particularly when properties are purchased with all cash, without bank financing, through an LLC, trust, or shell corporation, or through layered ownership structures that obscure the true human owner behind the transaction. Historically, banks have been classified as financial institutions under the Bank Secrecy Act, 31 U.S.C., paragraph 5311 E-SEQ, and are required to file suspicious activity reports, SRs. Real estate brokers and agents, however, have not traditionally been classified as financial institutions under that framework. This created a regulatory gap. The 2026 FinCEN Real Estate Reporting Rule is designed specifically to address that gap. Understanding money laundering in plain English. To understand why this rule exists, you must understand the mechanics of money laundering. In simple terms, money laundering generally occurs in 3 stages. The first stage is placement, where illicit funds are introduced into the financial system. The second stage is layering, where transactions are structured in a way that obscures the source of the funds. The third stage is integration, where the funds re-enter the economy, appearing to be legitimate, clean assets. Residential real estate is particularly effective in the layering and integration stages. Imagine the following scenario. An individual forms Desert Horizon Holdings LLC in Arizona. That LLC purchases a Scottsdale home for $1.8 million in cash. The recorded deed reflects only the LLC's name. Public records do not reveal the actual human being behind the entity. 2 years later, the property is sold, and the proceeds appear to be legitimate investment gains. Before enhanced transparency laws, there was often no federal reporting requirement at closing that identified the beneficial owner behind that LLC. The structure provided anonymity. That anonymity created vulnerability within the system. Why residential real estate became a federal target. Federal regulators began identifying patterns across major metropolitan markets. They observed high-value homes purchased without financing, foreign funds routed through U.S. entities, trust structures masking ownership, rapid flips between multiple LLCs, and properties with minimal occupancy or legitimate use. The Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, determined that residential real estate, especially non-financed entity purchases, was being used in certain cases to conceal proceeds derived from fraud, public corruption, sanctions evasion, narcotics trafficking, and organized financial crime. As a result, the federal government initiated temporary enforcement measures known as geographic targeting orders. Geographic targeting orders. The federal test run. Beginning in 2016, FinCEN issued temporary geographic targeting orders, GTOs. These orders required title insurance companies in specific cities to report beneficial ownership information for high-value residential purchases made by legal entities without bank financing. Cities affected included New York, Miami, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, and others. The results were significant. When reporting requirements were implemented, detection of suspicious activity increased. Federal agencies identified ownership structures that had previously remained hidden. The lesson was clear. When transparency increases, exposure to illicit risk decreases. The 2026 Real Estate Reporting Rule transforms what began as temporary, city-specific orders into a permanent nationwide framework. Arizona is fully included. How this connects to the Corporate Transparency Act, CTA. In 2024 and 2025, the Corporate Transparency Act, 31 U.S.C., paragraph 5336, required many LLCs and corporations to file beneficial ownership information, BOI, reports with FinCEN at the time of entity formation. It is critical to understand that this obligation occurs at formation. The 2026 Real Estate Reporting Rule applies at transaction closing. These are separate federal reporting obligations. An Arizona LLC that properly filed its BOI report under the Corporate Transparency Act may still trigger a separate real estate reporting obligation in 2026 if it purchases residential property without bank financing. This layered reporting structure reflects a broader federal shift toward ownership transparency across industries, including real estate. Why Arizona brokers must pay attention. It may be tempting to assume that this is solely a title company issue. However, Arizona brokers operate under state statutes and commissioners' rules that impose independent duties of honesty, competence, and supervision. Under ARS, paragraph 32-22153, a licensee may be disciplined for dishonest dealings or conduct demonstrating untrustworthiness. Under AAC, R428-1101, licensees must exercise reasonable skill and care and deal fairly with all parties. Under AAC, R428-1103, designated brokers are required to supervise the activities of salespersons and associate brokers. If a transaction contains obvious structuring designed to avoid transparency and a licensee ignores red flags, the risk is not confined to federal enforcement. State-level disciplinary exposure may also arise. Arizona's market makes this especially relevant. The state has a strong investor presence, including short-term rental investors in Scottsdale, institutional buyers in Phoenix suburbs, out-of-state LLC acquisitions in Gilbert, and high-value cash purchases in Paradise Valley. The application of this rule in Arizona will not be rare. It will become routine. The big picture: transparency, not taxation. The 2026 rule is not a tax statute. It does not prohibit LLC ownership. It does not eliminate cash purchases. It does not prevent legitimate investors from structuring transactions through entities. Its purpose is transparency. The federal government seeks to identify the actual human being behind an entity that purchases residential real estate using non-bank financing. In the next section, we will examine FinCEN itself, how it derives authority from the Bank Secrecy Act, and why its enforcement power now extends directly into residential real estate transactions. Section 1.1. Knowledge Check. True or false? Real estate has been identified by federal regulators as a potential vehicle for money laundering due to its high value and legitimacy. Answer: true. The 2026 FinCEN Real Estate Reporting Rule is primarily a federal tax enforcement measure. Answer: false. An Arizona LLC that filed beneficial ownership information under the Corporate Transparency Act may still trigger a separate real estate report in 2026. Answer: true. Because brokers are not the primary filers of the FinCEN report, they have no compliance risk exposure. Answer: false multiple choice. The primary federal law granting FinCEN authority to monitor financial transactions is A. the Fair Housing Act, B. the Bank Secrecy Act, C. the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, D. the Dodd-Frank Act. Answer: B. the Bank Secrecy Act. Geographic Targeting Orders, GTOs, were A. Arizona zoning regulations, B. temporary federal reporting requirements in select cities, C. state-level broker licensing requirements, D. federal tax assessments. Answer: B. temporary federal reporting requirements in select cities. The Corporate Transparency Act requires reporting primarily at A. property closing, B. mortgage underwriting, C. entity formation, D. title recording. Answer: C. entity formation.